This is gonna be just so awful. All right, whatever. Here we go.
I mean, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, keep saying that. Hey, everybody. You didn't think I was coming in there, did you? Welcome to episode, believe it or not, Greg, 40 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
And what a special 40th it is.
Right. So, Greg and I are joining you from my new studio. Let's call it that for now, right?
Yes.
And we've got to put the show together. We want to get you guys an episode every week. There are no guests this time. I literally still need to build a wall in here. But we're here for you. Greg, you brought a story?
I did.
I brought a story.
Cool.
So, how goes it? First off, let's slow down here. I'm rushing it. I'm a little rusty, I'll be honest. It's actually been a few weeks since we've recorded. Welcome back, co-host Greg. How are you?
I am fucked up on cough medication. I thought I grabbed the Dayquil, but I grabbed the NyQuil, so I had to take some NoDoz to counteract that. So
Well, and now you're here and feeling fine, I understand.
I've got a IV drip of Red Bull, and I should be okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we are coming to you live from the new spot, and we've got a couple stories. It's going to be a shorter episode, but we're coming back full force with a kind of a special episode next week. We're going to see a heavy hitter and special guests. What say you to this?
I say, I hope I'm there on time.
So do I. You want to go first? Do you want me to go first? How do you feel? What's the deal?
Well, I can go first. I don't mind. I just this was actually something that somebody asked us to do, which I thought was really neat. I don't want to name names because she's related, unless she wants me to name names. But if she does, she can call me out on it. This was a dude named Jeffrey Ferguson, and I'll keep it short and sweet because all the information I tried to find on him was like they were like 10-year after the fact type things where they were like, 10 years later, Jeffrey Ferguson reflects on the murders, and 10 years later, and all this stuff. And
there wasn't a lot of like current news articles from the time.
Right. I mean, I watched an interview with him in prison 6 years afterwards, and it was bullshit. It was they were trying to, like, at first it seemed like they were trying to get his side of things and like what actually happened, but then a few minutes into this 20-minute interview, you realize the guy interviewing is just steering it, and like he obviously had an agenda, an anti-metal agenda.
How dare he?
Yeah. So without further ado, I take you to Dateline, Huntsville, Alabama, March 10th, 1998. And that was the night that, quote, some evil being with horns sticking out of his head and eyes had taken over his body.
Please do go on.
This evil being took over Jeff Ferguson's body and murdered Jeff Ferguson's parents with an axe and a sledgehammer. Well, I mean, it was like a hatchet, like a medium-sized camping hatchet.
Okay.
And like a 3-pound sledge.
Both?
Yeah. Well, one
one for bludgeoning, one for chopping.
Right.
I see.
And he said he did it because, well, there's been a couple of reasons why he said he did it, but there was the lack of sleep. He said that he was awake for 3 days before that, in his room, snorting Ritalin and cutting himself. Where it was his exact quote.
Man,
And
I was trying to process that.
yeah, um, he had ADD, and so he was prescribed Ritalin. And this is the late '90s. This is before everybody had ADD like now.
Yeah.
So the stuff they were giving was crack. Ritalin was crack. It
Oh.
was just like focused crack, and that's what they gave him. And he was abusing it, and he was like making all these writings, but he was like he was a loner. He was like the Hot Topic kids before it became cool to be the Hot Topic kids. You know what I mean?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He's
I
the
mean, he
goth
was just
kids
like
from South
he was a
Park.
late '90s outcast, And he like one of his friends described him as an angsty teen. Like no shit, he's a teenager.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. In
Greg and
fact, in
I
my
were in a
notes
pop punk band together.
it says he was an angsty teen, but who wasn't? In my
Yes.
notes.
Yes.
He didn't really fit in. He kept to himself. And he got into the occult. He got into like Satanism and stuff like that, which I mean,
Do
cool, but
you?
not the killing part.
Yeah.
Like, be cool, you know. Don't fucking kill people. Like that's a pretty basic thing.
It's the
But
official
this guy
serial
missed
killer
that day.
stance. Actually, is just be cool, man.
Yeah, he missed that day in Satanism. Um, but he had writings. Like he was keeping a journal of stuff, of things he wanted to see happen and things he wanted to do and all that.
Huh.
Um, an excerpt from his writings before he killed his parents. I know dad will be home at this time, and I'll wait by the door behind the little hutch, and I'll hit him with a hammer. Mom will be out on a walk, and when she comes back, I'll have the radio playing loudly. I'll call Mama into the room and ask her what the agenda is for today. Then I'll kill her. And
What?
what about the brothers and sisters? Well, I'll take them. I'll strangle my little brother in his room, and I'll lure my other little brother into his room and strangle him. Then my sister, I'll rape, and then I'll finish her off.
Wait. So this is what he. This was his journal. You said
Yeah, this was part of his little manifesto thing.
that he wrote prior to the killings.
Yeah.
Whoa. Fuck.
Yeah, and I mean, and so he had four siblings. Three of them were attacked. They didn't die, but they got beat by sledgehammers and hatchets and the blunt end of the axe and all that stuff.
Huh.
And apparently, and I mean, he did like a great deal of damage to them, and it was really, really fucking sad.
Those instruments, I believe,
Yeah,
are only
but
capable of dealing great deals of damage.
it took down both the parents. And this cat, when they took him out of the house, like I watched the video of them like arresting him, and he was in handcuffs, and they like put him up against the back door of the cop car before they like opened the door and stuffed him inside. And he looks across at somebody. I don't know who he saw or thought he saw, I guess. But he's this 17-year-old shirtless kid with shaggy hair, and he just goes, "Hey, baby," and like sticks his tongue out and like wiggles it around and shit. And I was like, this guy obviously has no grasp of the situation. You know what I mean? He doesn't understand the gravity of what he's doing.
It's almost
and
as if his brain hasn't fully developed to make him an adult.
well, it was more than that. It wasn't like that he was just immature. It was that he literally had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And then when I looked a little further into his writings before the tragedies unfolded, um, he said that he was going to trick the judges by pleading insanity.
Why is he writing down all of his thoughts and plans?
Why do these people do it in the first place? I don't know. Why do you write this shit down? I don't get it. I don't get the manifestos. I mean, I appreciate the manifestos because it gives me something to read later. And I'm not a big reader, but reading a bunch of incoherent scribbles in a journal is.
Or like, here's what you do: you write your manifesto, and you get it all out, and you take it out to a field, and you fucking burn it. Okay, you got it out. It's gone. Don't throw it in a trash can. That way, it can't get traced back to you. All right, okay, get it out of your system.
Um, or just call and leave voicemails on the serial killer's voicemail line. Like that, let
Leave-
that be your manifesto.
oh
We'll play
my
it on the show. It'll be
gosh.
great.
Oh my god. Please don't do that.
Or do go ahead. um, but like he had like drawings and stuff in there, and they were all very Satan oriented.
Mm.
But then he gets arrested. They did this interview 6 years later where everybody was blaming the music. By the way, Joe Rogers, I'll never forget you, you douche. He was the one steering the conversation. So if you didn't have the drugs and the music, would you have still done this? And he was like, well, if I didn't have the drugs, I probably wouldn't have done it. Well, what about the music? Yeah, well, I guess the music too. You
Sort of
know,
like
like
sort of like Ted Bundy's um porn admission. Like he did it all because of porn.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they said they gave him the out, and he was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's for sure porn. That's why I murdered.
Well, and then like what really got me was like he was like, well, what did you used to listen to? And he was like, well, the band Democide, and he named a couple of other bands. So I looked up Democide, and the first song that I hit on was called oh crap, what did I say it was called?
An homage to Satan.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
And
it's I don't want to
it,
slander anybody.
it's gnarly speed metal, dude. It was all right. It's not my thing personally,
I suppose if
but
there were a music one may be inspired to murder by, it would be it. But that's preposterous.
but see, like this guy he wasn't like the normal like killer. He didn't like torture puppies and do all that. He was just like a weird dude who was
He,
by himself. And
he
then watching this guy manipulate him in the interview was just like, you're not helping anything. You're just preying on another victim.
right. He very well may have just been on some weird drug fueled trip and rage and killed his family. Not that that's any type of excuse, but it's
Well, and he came up like when he got baptized in prison twice,
oh, double
and
dunked.
or in county. I'm sorry, he got baptized twice in the county jail. Um, and he said he fully believes that he was possessed during this time because he said there was like a voice that told him that he was going to do this stuff, and then he did it. Like it told him that this is what was going to happen and how it went.
Sounds a little more like schizophrenia to me.
Yeah, and he just in my unprofessional opinion, he just seemed a little out of touch with reality. Even still, like there's if I feel like there was probably more underlying mental issues that never really got addressed because it was occult satanic murder in Huntsville, Alabama in 1998. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was probably a lot of stuff that didn't get addressed that maybe should have been addressed, and there were probably warning signs that didn't get viewed but they should have been.
Right. Oh,
So yeah, that's the distant cousin Jeff Ferguson.
heavy.
Yeah, heavy
Heavy
like metal, dude.
Jeff Ferguson. Um, Not related to the guy we went to high school with, Jeff Ferguson.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh,
Just a coincidence.
I was kind of hoping it was the same guy.
We were in elementary school in the late 90s.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the story I actually got from Getty. He's probably one of the most engaged followers of the show. He's always commenting and messaging stuff. He's fucking hilarious, and he left us a couple voicemails. I'll play both of them for you later because they're both in gold. But he reminded me. I definitely remember this case, and he reminded me of this case, and it was so good. Like, because Greg and I were doing this on short notice. This is going up on the night, and he said, "Hey, remember this case?" And I was kind of going one way, but when he reminded me of it, I was like, dude, I gotta kind of dig back into the facts of this thing, and it's crazy. So this is the story of Ryan Jenkins and Jasmine Fiore. So I'm going cliff notes for you guys because it is deep, and there's a I'm not gonna say good Aphrodite Jones. Is that her name? Aphrodite, whatever. It's a documentary. I'll post the link to it, but it's a documentary, and like 12 times during it, it claims this is the first time on television that you will see this footage. For the first time on television, giving an interview, one of the guys' names was Sextoy Dave Levine. It was in quotes.
Yeah.
Sextoy Dave.
Yes. Wait, which part was in quotes? Sextoy or Dave? Because if it's Dave, his
All
name is Sextoy and his nickname is Dave.
all three Sextoy Dave Levine.
Oh, so he's
He's Sextoy Dave.
hey, that's amazing.
So this doesn't have much to do with Sextoy Dave. I just couldn't help but bring that to the forefront. That even in this special, it just kept putting the quotes around Sextoy Dave. So, anyways, Jasmine Fiore and Ryan Jenkins. Ryan Jenkins was from Calgary. He was the self-made man. He was very good looking. They say. I don't. I mean, I guess I'm not a very good judge of these things.
As the legend goes.
Yes, exactly. And so Jasmine Fiore is a very young, up and coming model. She's actually raised in Santa Cruz, and she kind of always had dreams of something bigger. Her family wasn't poor by any means, but I think she grew up around a lot of people with great wealth, and she grew up with friends who had horses, so she grew up riding her friends' horses a lot, and that was kind of, they made a really big point to say like that was the thing that made her like dream of big things, like one day I will be able to afford this, and I'll be able to afford the things I want to do. So what do you do when you want to do that? You move out to LA.
Gotta be a star, kid, a big star.
No, so she's in Las Vegas, and I believe it's 2009, and she meets Ryan Jenkins. Ryan Jenkins is a self-made man from Calgary. I believe they said he's a real estate developer. So this guy's like the smooth talker, slick mover. When he meets Jasmine, he's already been on a show called Megan Wants a Millionaire. It's a reality TV show from VH1, where, of course, Megan wants a million. It's like a gold digger show, like, hey, 17 millionaires, come on and compete for this beautiful blonde woman or whatever. You get the idea. It was a bad reality show.
It was like Rock of Love
I think it was
or
exactly that without famous
Flavor of
people.
Love or
Or all of the loves. Yeah, except for replace like the B and C celebrities with rich people, with not
cool.
famous rich people. And so and that's actually how Ryan Jenkins was discovered. Was he kind of threw these big parties. He was always like the guy who had the like poolside cabana in Vegas, like pop all the bottles, like anything they want, like bring it out. And he was the big spender.
Waitress, bring me the Magnum of Dom P.
That may very well have been in the reenactment. I'm not sure. So this guy is like very driven to become famous, and he wants to be an actor, but he's also very, to me it seemed, I don't know much of him other than what I remember absorbing back then, and what I kind of sift through over the last 12 hours or so. But it's he was very, like, for this group of people he had this story, and for this group of people he had this story, and they weren't incredibly varying stories, but they were indeed varying stories. Like, I want to be an actor, and the other one was, I want to be a writer, I'm writing a book right now. And he just kind of had different things going on with different sects of people. And the book thing, there was, and this is from the one documentary, but they said that the book he was writing was called How to Be a Player. And
Yes.
that was kind of how they described him a little bit. That's kind of, I guess, it's a bad way of describing it, but he was very, it seemed like he had prepackaged lines. Like he came ready with the 12 like lines he was
We
going to
call that
use.
negging. You know, you want to start negative and then give them a compliment.
So he like it showed a quick clip of him on the reality show, and he like walks up and she's like, "Hi, I'm Megan." He's like, "Hey, I'm Ryan. Make sure to save a spot for me at dinner tonight, Kay."
Oh God.
Yeah, like it was painful. It was very cringeworthy. So, cut to 2009. They are in Las Vegas together. They meet in Las Vegas. They get married. It's literally they've known each other for, I think they said 24 hours when they got married. A little Whitechapel, because why not? That's what you do in Las Vegas. You go and you make some bad decisions, right?
Yes.
So we're talking small town girl from Northern California. We're talking
Living in a lonely world.
if only there were a train later in the evening that she could take, or early in the morning, depending on who you ask. And this guy is like a self-made man from Calgary. They meet in Las Vegas, and they get married at a whirlwind affair. Right? So what a beautiful thing. So it actually kind of like seemed like things were going okay. And then she breaks away with this other guy. I think it was a previous boyfriend. He gets, obviously not stoked on it, but they're both very big into like rebuilding yourself, like I'm going to change and I'm going to make me who I want to be and I'm going to get what I want. So he goes and he gets onto another reality show and wins $250,000. And somehow the fact that he had $250,000 wins Jasmine back. So you can kind of see where this is at. It's I think they both need each other for a certain thing, and I don't want to do any type of victim blaming, but it is very,
They're definitely using each other.
right. He needed the arm candy, so to speak. She needed the financial security that he was supposedly able to provide. I don't want to get too far into all of this. It really boils down to they get married. He goes to the reality show. She files for an annulment while he's gone. He comes back with the promise of $250,000 from the winnings. And from what I understand as well, the documentary claims that he actually did win the show and actually did get the $250,000. So they go on this trip to a very fancy hotel near San Diego. They What was it called? The La Aberrage. Yeah, it's in Del Mar. So Del Mar is where the fairgrounds are. They have the huge like Del Mar Fair every year. It's a very nice part of San Diego, if you're gonna call it San Diego. So they get a hotel room there. They go to a poker tournament. It's like a charity fundraiser, but they're there past midnight. And while they're there, this is like the official police timeline or the official police belief of how it went down. They said that Jasmine was texting the guy that she had kind of been on again, off again with, saying like, "I'm over it. Like, send your jet, come get me." This guy was a very wealthy man as well. So she says she's past this relationship, and they think that on the way back to the hotel, Ryan Jenkins kind of discovers this. I don't know if it was give me your phone, if he took it from her, or whatever it was. So they said that he may have pulled over, but it could have possibly been while driving. He pretty much just beat her unconscious.
Oh wow.
So violently beat her in the car. The detective on the dock and a few things that I said that's really the only way it fits the timeline. And then the hotel they had this really private back patio. So they believe that he drug her up to this back patio, and they have like some blood that got splattered on some of the stucco, and there's some hair on the back, and there was some evidence of this, but you can't get in from that back patio. So they have surveillance footage over, down the hallway, as probably every nice hotel in America has. And it shows him just sprinting into the room without Jasmine. And he comes back out a few hours later, and he's holding the receiver of the phone, like the part you would talk and hear out of. And he like walks out, and there's like this, I don't know, maybe like shelving unit or just something nice, some decorative piece in the hallway. And he just kind of like casually reaches up and puts it up there. So, maybe if there was somebody alive and they're trying to make a phone call, they're not going to be capable of that. So he like goes and he comes back, and he checks out of the hotel and checks out by himself with nothing in his hands. And before, probably a few 2-3 hours before he checks out, he leaves with what looks like the contents of a suitcase. So why Getty sent this to me is later a suitcase is found in Buena Park, which was about, I think Getty said, 6 blocks from where he lived at the time. And he said it was very, he said there was nothing like that happened around there. He said there was, there was crime, but it was obviously not murders. And he said the true crime fan in himself really said he was hoping for serial killer on it, but he didn't get that. So I'll play you the voicemail he called in with. He was so kind to call in with, and let's see here. Getty, what'd you get?
I don't got anything creepy. Go Greg, Jesse, sick idea for a show. So I was talking with Jesse, and as he remembers, I don't know about co-host Greg, but the Jasmine Fiore case, they found her body, initially unidentified, in a suitcase in Buena Park, California, down the street from my house. It blew my mind. I didn't know anything happened like that in my small little area, just outside of LA, blah, blah, blah. But first we heard there was a suitcase with a body found in it in the dumpster, and we're like, what the fuck? And then it turns out all her teeth and her fingertips were removed to, not be able to identify them. We were like, what the fuck is going on around here? Secretly hoping for a serial killer. But as it turned out, it was this Ryan Jenkins dude who was on this VH1 show, Total Loser, had killed her, dumped her there, went to Canada, found out that he was on the run, and killed himself in a Canadian motel. But this shit shook me up as a kid. Well, I was in high school. But just fucking insane. Don't think it's big enough for a full-on, episode. It's not a heavy hitter. But
Yeah, so I mean,
Don't doubt yourself, Getty.
yeah, I wanted to let Getty tell the end there too, because it was his idea. So that's kind of how it goes down. It's Ryan in the hotel room. They believe they said it was a 2-sided tool. They believe like pruning shears, and removed all of the fingertips, pulled out all of the teeth,
Ugh.
and removed any identifying mark. They said stuffed her into a suitcase that they have on footage. Jasmine and he checking into the hotel with, dumps it near Getty's home.
He's probably like, this is gonna fuck this little kid up.
Yeah. So they obviously find her, and they are at a loss. They have this body. They have no way of identifying her until a plastic surgeon hears that the body had breast implants. And most, if not all, breast implants have a serial number.
Huh.
So they were able to identify Jasmine Fiore by her breast implant serial numbers, realize who she was. So the first person they always go to is the spouse, and they've been married now. So they hit up Ryan and they say, yo, your wife is dead. We found her. We need to talk to you. And he says, no can do. My visa's up. I'm heading to Canada. So they're
convenient.
yeah, they're far more suspicious than they are initially, because he's just piecing out to Canada, and they just told him that his wife is dead, and he's not cooperating at all. So they find it, it's changing a little bit from person of interest to suspect, it seems, at this point. So They don't want to let him get out of the country, obviously, so they put an APB out on his vehicle. They call ahead to American and Canadian Border Patrol. They get the FBI involved. Essentially, they said every law enforcement agency in North America was working on finding Ryan Jenkins at that point. So, excuse me. They're looking for him. They're able to reach out to him and talk to him a few times, but he never complies. They finally catch up to him in a Canadian hotel where he has hung himself. So his dad says that the media drove him to kill himself, like what they had put him through. And part of me, almost believes that could happen. If I hadn't seen all this other fucking crazy evidence
Right.
to say that he almost certainly had done this, 99.99999% he did this, I can see if you were pegged as the killer initially, how the media might drive somebody to just be like, how am I going to get out of this ever, even if I am innocent? So
Yeah.
my thought for the day, but that's kind of it. He bludgeoned her, he suffocated her, he removed her fingertips, he removed her teeth, any identifying mark. This is his wife too. Like, I'm not saying that just because their marriage was shallow. And there was also talk that he was getting to stay in the country, she was getting some cash that never really came, from what I understand. That was the arrangement in their marriage. So it was shallow, it seems, but they did seem that they had, they were still married. They were husband and wife, and shallow or not, I think you get close to somebody, and I can't imagine,
Yeah.
killing them. Yes, I understand. Loved ones kill each other. It's crimes of passion, happen all the time.
It seems like a lot less of a crime of passion, though.
Is
It
more of
seems
a
more
crime
like
of jealousy.
It seems more like a douchebag being a douchebag and doing douchebag stuff.
That's also true. So that's really the whole story. I mean, I'm sorry if it wasn't as fully prepared as it could have been, but I really wanted to bring something.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your story too, man. This is good. Thank you to everybody for this. I say it at the end of every episode. I don't know if everybody listens through. I don't listen through the end of every podcast, so I get it if you don't listen through. But I always say, I'm saying in the middle right here, so I'm gonna catch you. Whoa, sneaky.
What?
So if you guys have ideas, and I know a lot of people have pitched some, and I haven't got to them, and they pitched them a long time ago. I have a list, everyone that has ever been pitched. I swear to you, it's on there. Some of them just, there's a lot you've got to go through. Some of them there's nothing to go through, but I'll get to them. I swear, if they are a serial killer, at some point that is going to be. At some point, I'm going to start running out of shit, and that list is going to become everything. But real talk, if you guys have something, throw it out there. Greg and I are listening.
Both of these stories came from suggestions.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this was essentially a suggested, a fan suggested episode. So thank you guys for pitching in on that. Give to the Patreon if you can. Yeah, thank you everybody who's chipped in on the Patreon. We want to get you an official shout out on a real episode, so we're gonna get the full list together on that. Go join the Facebook group. It's Serial Chillers Podcast. It's a private group. We're trying to keep it tight knit, you guys. So
like a family.
We'll accept you into that when you get in there. Let's be cool to each other. I want to be clear on that. Like, feel free to promote your podcast. Like I want this to be a space where we can all kind of just be a podcast community, and it doesn't have to be true crime. I'm interested in other things, believe it or not. So, everybody join that. You can go to the page, Serial Chillers Podcast on Facebook. You can serialchillerspodcast.com. The Instagram is at Serial Chillers Podcast. The Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. Greg's going to reply to you there. And, just like the support keeps not only keeps happening, but keeps happening in greater numbers. And it's like, it was initially sort of overwhelming almost to us, and again, not overwhelming in the stop, but overwhelming in the like, whoa, this is very nice and very cool, and like it keeps happening continuously and even more every day and every week and every month. So I don't speak for Greg, and I used to try to, and he got real offended. So I speak for
Yeah.
me when I say thanks a lot for the support and just reaching out with the support. Like, kind words mean a ton. So Greg and I work really hard, and it's appreciated. So that's from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, from the bottom of my shitty little heart. Um, no, it is. It's really cool. I appreciate seeing that stuff. That's
Yeah,
always neat.
it's
I like. I sometimes I don't know what to say, so I'm just like, "Hey, thanks," because I'm not used to people wanting to hear what I have to say about stuff.
yeah. This is
It's
a
like we keep talking about starting another podcast, and I want to do a conspiracy podcast, but it's like, one, I don't know if my brain can handle it anymore, but two, like I'm not 100% convinced people want to hear what I have to say, because when I talk to people like in real life, they don't want to hear what I have to say.
yeah.
So
The people around you are a very small sample. You know.
I guess, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'll keep kicking it around until I come up with something. I have to come
yeah.
up with a name first, and then I'll
You,
build around
you hear that,
that.
guys? Encourage Greg and shoot him some names for his conspiracy podcast. We also have a couple other things. I mean, I think we've touched on it before, and I don't mean to tease at things that aren't going to happen, but there are things. Like it's going to be a slow but sure process. But as long
Got a lot
as
of big things.
yeah, as long as you guys keep supporting the way you're supporting, and like we're able to keep doing this the way we are able to keep doing this, there will be more things, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and this is going to continue to be a lot of fun. So I don't know, I feel like this is rambling now, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't speak for Greg, but I know he appreciates it, and thank you everybody for listening to episode 40 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
Happy 40th.
All right, Greg. Did you do the outro?
I started to, but it never really panned out.
Uh,